Hello everyone, Kirith here, and today we're talking about new cars in Gran Turismo 7. Now, we've seen the trailers, we've seen the blog posts, we know there are a couple new cars already confirmed for Gran Turismo 7, but this video is about the cars that we really want to drive in GT7 that haven't been revealed yet. But GT7 is going to be, in my opinion, the biggest driving game of 2022. It's going to be the biggest driving game of next gen. And it's going to be look absolutely phenomenal on PS5, and it's going to be on PS4 as well, as we know. I've got a list. I've got a list of 10 cars I want to see. Now, this might be a little bit controversial. So once you've seen the cars that I really want to drive and why I want to drive them in GT7, and also, by the way, why I think they'll be in GT7, if you disagree with any of them, or you've got any other cars you want to see, let me know in the comments. I'm definitely going to be doing a follow-up video to this one. So if you've got some cool ideas, let me know, and I'll credit you in the next video. But let's kick things off. Car number 1 on my list. And this is, do you know what it is? You get a point if you know what it is. Look how obscene that rear end. This is a Gordon Murray T50. Who is Gordon Murray? He is the designer of the legendary McLaren F1, a car that you'll definitely know and love. The T50 is his new car. It's got a beastly V12 in it. Very light as well. Very highly anticipated. Limited run of sales. Obviously sold out almost immediately. And this is the exact kind of car that, to be honest, no one watching this video, including myself, is ever going to be able to own. If you can afford it, let me know. Can I have a test drive? But Gran Turismo is the best place for us to get to know these cars. This is what Kaz wants to happen, us to fall in love with cars. The T50 is going to be legendary. I want to see this car in GT7. I want to drive it. By the way, you may have noticed that this orange version has a bit more bodywork going on. This is a Niki Lauda Sport Edition. This one is made for the track. I'd love a cheeky VGT Group 3 of this. That'd be awesome. Right, here we go. On to the next car. And this is obviously the beautiful Chevrolet Corvette CAR. Now, I've said this many times on my live streams. And again, if you want to catch me racing live, both on iRacing and GT Sport and GT7 in the future, make sure to subscribe to this channel. If you're enjoying these videos, please do subscribe. It massively helps the channel. But I've always said I'm fed up in GT Sport of driving the old Corvettes, driving the C7, which has been around since I think like 2013, 2014. I want to drive the new Corvettes, and I want to drive this one because in iRacing, this is one of my favourite cars to drive. It's a GTE. It's very difficult to get the performance out of it. It will bite your head off. And it looks utterly gorgeous. So I'm feeling with the Ford GT LMS being confirmed, I feel like we need to see the Chevrolet Corvette CAR. And by the way, I'd love to see the road-going version as well. If you also want to see this, let me know. Let's have some more GCEs in GT7. Now, I hope, I expect and hope, including this car in this list is going to be very uncontroversial. This is, of course, the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. Now, why do I think this will be in GT7? Well, we saw in the Brembo announcement trailer, we saw the Audi R8 GT3 Evo. So I'm hopeful we're going to see more Evo cars in. Secondly, you know, again, a bit fed up of driving the Ferrari 458 in GT Sport. It's an old car. I actually remember going to the Nürburgring. I went to the Nürburgring in 2013 to drive the Nürburgring, and there was a Ferrari 458 then in 2013, and that was a spruced up 458. So come on, we've got to move on, move with the times. I know that Ferrari don't really like to license their newest cars in racing games. I don't think they like them getting beat up, but this car is an iRacing. I think it's an ACC as well, and I think it needs to be in Gran Turismo 7. I think it could be a staple of sport mode. I love driving this car in iRacing. I drove its predecessor, the Ferrari 488 non-Evo version, a lot in iRacing. I had a great success with it. I think won some special events and endurance races in that. And the Evo just takes it to another level, feels a lot lighter, feels a lot more poised. And I love driving it in iRacing. You can drive it in Ferrari Fix, drive it in IMSA next season, you can drive it in VRS, you can drive it in the GT3 Fix. It's a staple car, and I want people who have GT7 to enjoy this car. really is a special thing to drive. Really, really enjoyable, real driver's car. So this is a Ferrari 488 GT3. If you don't want to see this in GT7, you've got to let me know why. I mean, how can you not want to drive this? It's absolutely superb. But let's move on to the next car. And it's probably surprising that this is the first Aston Martin on the list. The Aston Martin Valhalla is going to be the first hypercar launched by Aston Martin since they returned to Formula 1, which is interesting. And also, I don't know if you know this, but I wanted to make a video in Gran Turismo about all the Bond cars. I wanted to drive the Aston Martins, the Lotuses, the old BMWs in Gran Turismo Sport. There's hardly any Bond cars in Gran Turismo Sport. There's hardly any Aston Martins. This car, by the way, I think features in the new Bond movie, No Time to Die. So go check that out. This video is not sponsored by James Bond. But it's that kind of car culture that was missing for Gran Turismo Sport. There just wasn't the number of cars there for you to just feel like, okay, well, hang on, what would it be like to drive that car? And these Aston Martins, both the Valhalla and the Valkyrie that's coming out, I feel like they need to be part of Gran Turismo 7. They're in Forza, they're in a lot of mobile games. These cars are out there in other games to drive. It needs to be in Gran Turismo 7 if it wants to be a car collection game. This car was redesigned when they released the concept, had kind of very small headlights. Now it looks more like an Aston Martin. I think it's a gorgeous looking car. Look at that front splitter. What is that thing going on at the front? Absolutely huge. You could eat your dinner off that. In fact, the whole family could. Right, let's move on to the next car. And it's our first BMW. Now, I'll tell you why I picked this BMW. It's the BMW M2. It's because Gran Turismo isn't just about driving GT3s, GT4s, all these race cars. It's also about driving cars that are a little bit more attainable. And this is probably the most attainable car on the list so far. It's a car that actually people can, we can kind of aspire to. Obviously, the M2 comes in quite a few trims. You've got the CS, you've got the competition. But a really interesting car in terms of how it stacks up against the M4. And, in GT Sport, we've got the M4, we've got the M6. In iRacing, you've got the M8 GTE as well. They're all kind of big, chunky cars. The M2 is a very, very, very focused car. How does it stack up against the M4? And it's the sort of car that I think in single player would be a really interesting car to own, upgrade, mod, and kind of get that PP ranking to a place where it's competing with kind of much more established cars. So the BMW M2 is a car that I really want to see in Gran Turismo 7. Right, I hope you're enjoying the list so far. Let me know if you disagree with any of my choices, anything controversial. But here we go. This one's for the fans. This one's for the OGs. It's a BMW Z4, the new version. I think came out in about 2018. Why am I including the BMW Z4? Well, if you play GT Sport, you will know the BMW Z4 Group 3 is an absolute meme car. It is useless. I don't know why it's so useless. I don't know why they haven't BAP'd it up, but it's kind of just no one uses it. It doesn't have any top end. It's a meme car. It's such a shame because it was a valid car to use in iRacing before I think it went legacy. And I think the new model of the Z4 would be such a good way to bring it back. This, by the way, shares the same chassis and bits underneath as a new Toyota Supra, which is a car Gran Turismo love. So I really want to see this car in. I'd love to see, in honour of how bad the old, I think it was a 2011 Group 3 was in GT Sport, I'd love to see a VGT Group 3 in Gran Turismo 7. And by the way, I think this car just looks so good. It just looks like a car that you want to aspire to own. It is a seriously good looking car. I guess this car goes up against the Porsche Boxster, stuff like that. The Porsche Boxster is quite a tired design. This one looks just really, 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 really good. And I've talked before about how free roam would be amazing in Gran Turismo 7. A little bit of a controversial video, but I talked about how I'd really like free roam, and this car in free roam would be great. And I don't know if it's in Forza Horizon or not, but that's the kind of thing where if you're looking to buy a driving game, these kind of road cars, I want to drive them like that. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. And here we go. Bosch is our first McLaren. It's getting real now. The list is getting real. Obviously, we got the McLaren 620S and GT Sport, both in GT4, GT3, and road-going trim. So obviously, we need the 720S and GT7, but I haven't gone for the 720S here. I've gone for the McLaren 725 LT, the long tail, And the reason why is I'm very lucky I race in the karting championship in the UK. We go all over the country racing karts, and some of the drivers are very rich and have very nice cars. And there's a few drivers who turn up in a McLaren 720, so I've seen the McLaren 720 too much. I want to see the long-tail beast. This is, I think, set 25% lighter than the 720S. Just more focus. It's that kind of thing we want to drive in Gran Turismo 7. And I've really enjoyed driving the McLarens in GT Sport. They're really underrated cars to drive. The Group 4 and the Group 3. Very, very nice handling cars. So I really, really, really want to see this in Gran Turismo 7. Let's drive some more Macas in GT7. Next car is going to surprise you. It's the BOATLEY. It's the BOATLEY Continental GT3. Why was this car never added to GT Sport? It's probably the one GT3 that I miss driving the most. It's a staple of ACC. It's a legendary car. And just kind of weird how it's not in GT Sport. This absolutely needs to be in Gran Turismo 7. I think it needs to be. GT3 class will just be incomplete if we don't have this. But here's a little curveball for you. Is Pikes Peak going to return in Gran Turismo 7? And if so, can we get the Pikes Peak version of the Continental GT3? Look at this car. Wouldn't you just love to tear up Pikes Peak in this? It's even got the Gran Turismo visor strip on the top, or the windshield strip. I'm telling you, are we going to see Pikes Peak back? Are we going to see this Continental GT3 Pikes Peak edition back? I don't know. Right, if you're liking this video, make sure to deploy your subscription now so you don't miss a follow-up when I answer all of your comments below about why didn't you include this car, why didn't you include that. Don't worry, I'm going to talk about them in my next video. So if you hit that subscribe and that bell, you won't miss it. Let's move on to the next one. Having fun doing this. And I've gone for, well, this is a Formula 4 car. This is actually this will be the old gen because it doesn't have a halo. But basically, I want to see more open-wheeled cars in Gran Turismo 7. I feel like Gran Turismo 7 was very much a tin-top touring car, GT-style game with the cars in sport mode. And I kind of feel like it's just missing a bit with the open-wheelers. That's what Project Cars had, PC1 and PC2. It's something that ACC just won't have. ACC won't have these open-wheeler cars. So I feel like it's a real point of distinction that Gran Turismo 7 can make. And I think if they get the open wheelers right and if they include them, I think it will be some of the best racing in the game. If you drive these cars in iRacing, absolutely superb. They're real drivers' cars. As I've said, I've raced in the karting championship in the UK. Formula 4 is where the best drivers in my championship progress to. If they've got the talent, they've got the money or the sponsorship, all three of those, they go into Formula 4. So it's a championship that's very close to me personally. And I think it's where it will be a really, really good class for close racing and where it's all about the racing. Could be a spec series, and that's very different from the BOP nature of Group 3, Group 4. So I really want to see Formula 4. Interested if anyone feels the same way, but I really, really want to see that. I don't know if they're going to include it. Right, this is a possible long shot because of the timing, but this would be incredible to see in Gran Turismo 7. These are the LMDH hypercars that are part of the new WEC regulations. So they're replacing the LMP ones that we're all familiar with. There's plenty of LMP ones in GT Sport. They're gone. They're not going to exist anymore. From 2022, we're going to have the LMDH cars in WEC, and I think they're LMH cars in IMSA, so they can race in both. Correct me in the comments if I'm getting all the regulations wrong. They are, I think anyone could admit, a little bit complicated these days. But anyway, these are the hypercars of the future. These are the cars that, if WEC is going to exist, these are the cars that are going to save it. These cars are incredibly important to the future of internal combustion motorsport, frankly. They're really, really, really important. There's a load of manufacturers on board. Can we possibly see any in Gran Turismo 7? So the timing means we might not see them at launch because the manufacturer haven't finalised them. But if so, I definitely want to see them added. Is anyone else hyped about the hypercars? They're going to be in iRacing, we know that. They're going to be in R Factor 2, because R Factor 2 now has a load of licenses. I think they would be great to see in GT7. And could we even have some kind of LMDH spec series of single player or a spec bopped category for online sport mode. That would be epic. Right, now I've actually lost track of how many cars I've said I want to see in GT7. It's a lot of cars. But the next one that I was going to include, and I've decided not to include it, I was going to include one of the Polestar cars. It's the hybrid electric offshoot of Volvo. But actually I've decided I'm not fussed about electric cars in Gran Turismo 7. I feel like Gran Turismo 7 might be the last hurrah of internal combustion cars. And by the time GT8 comes out, I think the landscape of both just general road-going cars and also race cars will be in a different place. So I don't want to see too many electric cars in GT7. GT7 is about celebrating, I think, the petrol engine, basically. So I've removed that from the list. But there we go, that's my list. Do let me know in the comments if there's any other cars that you want to see, and I will go through them and I will make another video. Please do make sure to subscribe to see more of this kind of content. Again, if you're enjoying this and you subscribed, we get to 10,000 subscribers very, very quickly, and that would open some doors from us. I'm all about just making the content for you that hopefully is exciting and you want to see and gets us thinking, gets us hyped up for GT7. But otherwise, it's been a long video from me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.